Hello guys, my name is Prayag from Bite Size Hacks, and a little over a year ago, I made a video on what Linux is and why it's useful in the world of cybersecurity. But I realized I never actually got to completing the rest of the parts. So a year later, here's part 2, and let's talk about the Linux file system. Knowing how the Linux file system or directory system is super important in the world of cybersecurity because this really helps you trace where malware is or how an attack happened, and it's really good for stuff like forensics or just like tracing. So one last thing before we actually begin showing the demo, let's talk about what the file system actually looks like. So as you can see in this diagram, Linux has a single root directory, and that is this / over here. So everything in Linux branches out from this /. Now, there's a few directories right under it that you'll constantly run into. So first one being /home. This is where the regular users live, your files, your configs, etc., etc. /root. This is the home directory of your root user, like your admin user, the one who controls basically the entire file system. /etc. This is the configuration files for the system and applications. This is like super important stuff like forensics. And /var/log, these are the system logs. This is where you can look for when something goes wrong or when an attacker has tried to cover their tracks. /tmp, these are where your temporary files go to. These are like often files that get overwritten, and they're often files that are written by anyone, and attackers usually love dropping files here. Finally, /bin and /user/bin, these are where executable commands live. Okay, so for this tutorial, I'm going to be running Kali on a virtual machine. But before we get into it, I want to talk about why does Linux matter in the world of cybersecurity? So, I mean, the most obvious thing is that most of the internet actually runs on Linux. So this includes like web servers, cloud infrastructure, IoT devices, etc., etc. And when you're doing a lot of like pen testing or like responding to an incident or something, there's a good chance that you're working on a Linux system. The other thing is that Kali comes with a lot of Linux first tools such as like Nmap, Wireshark, Metasploit, etc., that you could only really run on Linux. So it's like really it's really like good to know like how to kind of navigate yourself through the directories. Yeah, so this is why knowing your way around the Linux file system is super important. Alright, so now I'm in my virtual machine and let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually open up the terminal, which is where I'll be doing all my commands in. The first command I want to start with is pwd, which essentially means print working directory. This lists where you are in the file system. So as you can see right now, I'm in /home/prayog. So what's in this directory? Let's see. So we'll do ls, which basically means list. And this lists the contents of the directory. Now, if we want to do something more, we can do something called ls-l, which will actually tell you a lot of flags about each of the contents, such as like the permissions, the owner, the size of the file, that when it was first created, etc. Now, the other thing I want to show you is ls/a, and this actually lists all the hidden files of this directory. So anything that starts with a dot, for example, .bashrc.original, or .face, these are all hidden files. As you can see, stuff like downloads, documents, they're not hidden, they don't have a dot behind them. Now you can actually combine both of these together. If I were to do something like ls.la, this not only would list all the flags of each of the contents of the directory, but it would also list all the hidden files associated with it as well, as you can see right here. So what if we want to change our directory that we're in? So if I if I list what directory I'm in right now, as you can see, we're in /home/prayog, but if I want to go to, say, the etc directory, I'll do cd, which is change directory, and I'll go to /etc, and now I'm in this directory. If I want to go up one level, I'll do cd, and then this right here. As you can see, now I'm in this directory. If I want to go back to my home directory, I'll do cd, then dash, and this will go back to the directory I was before. Alright, I have a file right here called desktopfile.txt, which has some very special text, as you can see. Now, how do I read this in my terminal? So if I go to my terminal, I do pwd. As you can see, we're in my /home/prayog. And if I do ls, I want to get to this desktop directory, so I'll do cd desktop. Now in the desktop directory, I'll do something called cat, and then I'll enter the name of my desktop file.text. Now once I press this, it'll actually read the context of the file, and it should say, here is some special text. And as you can see, here it is. Alright, but now I decided, you know what, I really don't want two files with the same content, so I'm actually going to remove this special text file. Now to do that, I'm going to do a command called rm, which means remove. And I'll actually do rm special text.txt. And once I do that, it will remove it. It will delete it. There's a variation of this rm command called rm.rf. Now, I'm not going to actually enter this command, I just want to show it. What this essentially does is that it'll delete a directory and literally everything inside of it. And this will not only just do that, but it won't even give a warning or a confirmation for you to enter. This F right here basically forces the computer to do it automatically, which is why it's known as one of the most devastating Linux commands to do. So you really want to be super cautious with this command when you're entering it. But yeah, those are the fundamental Linux commands that you'll need to know, as they're the foundation of everything you'll do in this field. So for example, if you want to get into CTFs, forensics, pen testing stuff, these are the stuff that you'll need. Now if you want to practice what I just did, I would recommend running Kali on a virtual machine like I just did. And if you want, I'll actually do a tutorial in my YouTube channel if I feel like it's needed. Just let me know in the comments. And yeah, thank you for watching. If you liked my video, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode.